Good morning, YouTube family. Good afternoon and good evening, wherever you might be. Welcome to Escape from Crazytown. So glad to see you guys already hopping on. John, good to see you. Um, oh boy. John says they're going to get a 30-minute call on Monday. You can only imagine what that is about. Good grief. Oh, you did have a call. That what it was about. Wow. Oh boy. Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm just resetting some of my settings here so I can see everything, and I'm not sure what's going on. Hello. I don't know why my screen is showing stuff now. Um, huh. Okay. Oh, there we go. Okay. I'm sorry. I just had some screen issues. So good to see you guys. Dangerous Conversations. Good morning. Oh, yeah. Ooh, so sorry to hear about the Hoover, John says. Me neither. Or me also. You have no idea. Oh no. So she called you and you guys talked for 30 minutes. Yep. Definitely looking forward to hearing about that. Today's topic, you guys, is going to be about this deep connection with the narcissist and what that is all about. Why such a deep connection to the narcissist? And there's definitely scientific proof for why that happens. And I want to go into actually quite deeply what is going on in your mind, and especially now a lot of people are wondering why the new supply is so connected to the narcissist, because at this point we're out of it and we can see how horrible the narcissist really is and how damaging they are, but the new supply is in the midst of it and cannot see it, or actually they do see it, but their connection to the narcissist is so intense that they refuse to let go. And there is a reason for that, and what happens to people when we make a deep connection with an abusive person, why we even desire that, right? What do we get out of that? And I remember a long time ago, I seen Dr. Phil. I don't know, this is a long time ago before he became big time famous, I suppose. And his question to all of his patients or people that come on TV, um, was, "What are you getting out of this?" So even people who are coming on, who are the victims, who are the ones who are being abused, but they stick around, right? They don't retaliate and they don't give any consequences to the abuser. So his question to them is always, "What are you getting out of it?" And the reason for that is because of the enabling. Victims a lot of times don't realize they're enabling their abuser. Especially when you're watching the news supply, you can see it probably really clearly that they're enabling the narcissist, and you're just wondering, what the heck? Why would they enable this terrible person who's treating them so badly? But the reason is they're getting something out of it. And that's what we want to figure out. What do they get out of it? But also, what are we getting out of it? And that's how you break that bond. That's how you break that really deep connection, is once you figure out, what am I getting out of this? And that's when you realize what's motivating you to stay connected to the narcissist. So you guys will get into that. I wanted to see, oh, John was saying that he got a bunch of random questions. That's it. Yeah, she's feeling you out, right, John? She's feeling you out to see if it's worth coming back and if you're willing to take her back. And she's probably trying to play her Hoover, where a lot of times narcissists will use questioning, as in, "I want to know more about you. Let's talk about you." And it's their way of hoovering. It's their way of love bombing and getting you to feel like they care about you and they want to know what's going on in your life and who you are and what makes you tick. Because they're under the impression that everybody loves to talk about themselves. And a lot of people do. You feel like, wow, no one's ever asked me this, or no one has ever been that concerned for me, or that um, interested in what I have to say about whatever topic, right? Um, so when they do that, you kind of feel like, wow, they really care. They want to know. So you get pulled in. So hopefully you notice that. Yeah. Frost is best in world says, it's understandable to me. I was brainwashed for 9 years. She's magnetic. Most guys speak to her once and think they're deeply in love because of her energy. Oh, yes. Oh, yes. The energy, the intense focus, the excitement, the flair for life, right? They draw you in, sort of like fireflies or bugs to a lantern. You see this light, and it's the only light in the room, so you're going to be gravitating towards it. And then you get burned. That, sadly enough, but here's the deal: a lot of people remain with the narcissist even after they get burned. A lot of people will stay under the spell of the narcissist, even though they've already seen more than glimpses of the abuse, right? They've already experienced the trauma of picking themselves back up, maybe even getting hospitalized, right? And yet they'll keep going back to the narcissist. So many reasons for it. But today I want to talk about one particular one, and that is Stockholm Syndrome. I know that many of you who've been here have already heard that term, but I took a little deeper dive on that, into that today. And I was just thinking, it would be really good for you guys, for my viewers, to dive in with me because it explains a lot about what's going on. Now, one of the funny things that I learned as I'm reading about Stockholm Syndrome is that the experts, I suppose, say that there's only it only happens in kidnapping situations, right? And they've only experienced it and explored it in the kidnapping and hostage type environment. But what they don't think about is the abuse that comes from a narcissistic relationship, where essentially you are a hostage. You become an emotional hostage, but you also many times become a financial hostage, or you become a hostage to them because you share children. It's a psychological environment where they keep you hostage. Now, can you leave the house? Can you go to work? Can you go out with your friends still? Most of the time, yes. Most people who are in a relationship with a narcissist, they can still do all these things that makes it look like they're free to come and go as they wish. But psychologically, the narcissist has you hostage. And so anyway, the experts who study Stockholm syndrome, I don't think have actually, well, let me go back up a little bit. The experts who talk about Stockholm syndrome but not about narcissism don't make the connection that this is far more widespread than just the physical hostage situations. And I think that the psychologists are starting to really go back and explore this. Now, I don't know if this is true or not, but, and I haven't looked into DSM, um, which is the manual for mental, hold on, let me, diagnostic and statistical manual of mental disorders. That's the DSM. I think they're up to DSM 5 or 6 right now. And each time they update it, they change a few things or they add a few things, right? But what I'm reading is that Stockholm syndrome has never been added to the DSM, which is bizarre because I'm like, wow, why wouldn't it? Well, it's because they feel that it's very rare, since it only happens in a recorded 5% of hostage situations. Well, now that we're studying narcissism and narcissistic abuse, we realize that Stockholm syndrome happens a lot more often than just 5% of, kidnaps victims. It happens almost 100% of narcissistic abuse victims is what I'm seeing. I'm not saying that's the actual number, but so many of us can identify with it. And that's why I want to jump into this. Well, you guys, this is Happy Crappy Hour, and this is the hour where we connect with one another, but we learn about what went well this week for us, and we want to keep doing those things, and we learn about what did not go well this week, and we want to stop doing those things. I want to see how you guys are all doing. Rye, good to see you. Rye Shines, good to see you. Good morning. And Jennifer, good morning. Let me see. Obi-Wan, good to see you. Says, hey gang, sorry been gone these past few months. Yeah. Uh-oh. Got mixed up in another one of those relationships. Oh, that went nowhere for 3 months. Yeah. He says you lose focus on your wants when in a relationship with these people. Yes, yes, you do. You end up compromising, and it's one thing to compromise in a relationship, but it's another thing to just lose yourself entirely and become hostage. And this is why I really want to talk about Stockholm syndrome this time. When you become a hostage in the relationship and you can't leave. Well, in Obi's case, he was able to leave. He ended it. He realized that it wasn't going anywhere, and it wasn't healthy. So that's when you want to end it. Frost is best in world says, definitely. I was cheated on more times than I could count. But if I liked a friend's picture who's a female, it would lead to a complete meltdown. Oh my gosh. Isn't that true? Yeah. Um, that's another topic for another day. But narcissists live in this double standard world where only how they feel about things is the rule. That's it. So rules are always changing, and how you make them feel is never the same as how they make you feel. Even if you guys do exactly the same thing, such as cheating on one another, right? And I'm not saying that you cheated on her. I'm just saying that if their perspective is that you cheated on them, then they get to treat you as badly. Yeah. But if they actually cheat on you, then that doesn't matter because they don't see it as a big deal. Yeah, that's the crazy, absolute, horrible, abusive, double standard world of the narcissist. Well, you guys, let's hop into Stockholm syndrome. Yeah, Stockholm syndrome came from Sweden. It was a robbery and hold on, let me see. It's the Stockholm bank robbery in 1973. A convict on parole took four employees, three women and one man. One of the largest banks, um, from one of the largest banks in Stockholm, Sweden. He took them hostage during a failed bank robbery. He negotiated the release from prison of his friend, okay, to assist him. They held the hostages captive for 6 days. Wow, okay, 6 days in one of the bank's vaults. When the hostages were released, none of them would testify against either captor in court. Instead, they began raising money for their defense. You guys, this is happening now. When people are abusive, and it doesn't even have to be where you're hostage anymore. All they have to do is convince you that they're the victim. And I've been seeing this where people have been extremely abusive, extremely horrible, and yet they will go on and create a funding page and actually raise a ton of money for themselves because they portray themselves as a victim. I think that narcissists are living. This is probably the golden age for narcissism. It is so so sickening. But narcissists are being rewarded. Narcissists are using things like Stockholm syndrome and also manipulation, victimization, projection, brainwashing. They're using all of these things to get people convinced that they're the victim. Well, that's what happened in the Stockholm syndrome case right here. So they said the Swedish criminologist and psychologist Niels Bergero coined the term after the Stockholm police asked him for assistance with analyzing the victims' reactions to the 1973 bank robbery and their status as hostages. As the idea of brainwashing was not a new concept, Bergero, speaking on a newscast after the captive's release, described the hostages' reactions as a result of being brainwashed by their captors. So he says it later became known as Stockholm syndrome. It was originally defined by psychiatrist Frank Ochberg, okay, to aid in the management of hostage situations. You guys, it's bizarre, but in this day and age with the amount of communication we can have, we can get very, very, I don't even want to say intimate, but it's a false intimacy, right? We think we know someone, even in Facebook, right? Even if you go to this social media and you're watching somebody and they're posting everything about their life, they're showing you when they're up, when they're down, where they're going, late nights, the early mornings, they're posting about every aspect of their life, raising their kids even, or whatever parties they've gone to, just absolutely everything. You get to know someone, which in the past would take years to get to know, but we get to know them now within minutes, like so much about them. We get to know their morals, what they like, what they don't like, what disturbs them, what frustrates them, what angers them, what gets under their skin. Yeah, we get to know people so intimately now. And that is one of the top things, top reasons people develop Stockholm syndrome is because they feel like they know this person. They feel connected to that person deeply, right? Because of this intimate time. And even though we realize that social media is not intimate, it's such a fake out that your brain can't process the difference between knowing all of this intimate information from a stranger versus knowing intimate information from someone who's actually in your life, like a relative or even your own spouse, right? You start to develop these chemical reactions to people the more you get to know them. And it makes your body, it's so bizarre. Some people may consider it spiritual as well, but I know that your body goes through a chemical reaction with familiarity, right? It could be a positive chemical reaction or a negative one, but either way, you build this connection with the other person because they evoke this chemical reaction from you when they're in your view. So with narcissists, I think that what's going on is they build this chemical reaction with us, but um, they build it physically, right? Because they're in our life physically, and we're interacting with them physically. But I'm kind of concerned that we're getting to the point where narcissists are going to be able to build that intimacy with us virtually. They're going to be able to do it through the internet. You're going to, you know how people like fall in love with a movie star or a singer or somebody like that. They actually think they're in love with that person. And back, a couple of decades ago, it would take articles and articles on in magazines, one after another, interviews, watching multiple interviews, going to concerts or watching their movies, and then people slowly through all of that develop this familiarity with the star, and then they think they're in love with that person, right? But they actually don't have any physical interaction with that person, not even verbal interaction with that person, right? um, and yet they feel like they would give up their life for this person. It's such, I mean, it's so negative, it's so bad. um, I don't even know where to begin with that. But if you ever, I hope people move away from that. But what I'm seeing, the trend right now, is people are going farther and farther into that trend. They are not interested at all at disconnecting with their make believe relationship with somebody in this virtual world. So now we have Stockholm syndrome, this intense uh, psychological connection, intimate connection, now no longer requires a real physical interaction. It can happen over the internet. And that, you guys, is super, super creepy. And I think that makes it even more pervasive. Stockholm syndrome. People who will refuse to say anything bad about someone. Oh my gosh, you guys, I have a friend who was telling me that his sister, and I'm not going to talk about who the person is, But this sister of his, what is it? Somebody had come out and accused this public figure. Not just accused, they had actual evidence. And I'm not talking about evidence as in more words. It was actually filmed, right? There was actual audio and film evidence of this person having committed a sexual crime. But this person is being touted as very beloved and has, I'm trying to stay at, keep this as anonymous as I can. But this person is actually being presented as a very lovable, very kind, very good person. So the sister, who's known this public figure for decades, sat and has followed him, I guess. I don't know. I guess, or maybe not followed him for decades, but she's believing the the propaganda that's out there right now that's pushing this public figure as beloved and grandfatherly, even, just someone you can trust and someone cares about you. Well, when the evidence came out about his attack on a woman, the sister said, "Oh, I can't even believe that. And even if it was true, she was lucky to have such a handsome guy do that to her." Yeah, that is Stockholm syndrome, you guys. That is Stockholm syndrome, where people get to the point where they defend the criminal. Regardless of the evidence that's out there, regardless of, um, yeah, how do I put it? Regardless of whatever atrocity they commit. And I want to talk about another situation where, not just situation actually, I've been learning about North Korea a lot recently. I've been almost devouring everything I can find about North Korea. I posted in my comments, or not my comments, in my description, by the way, a link to one woman that I do follow. Her name is Yeonmi Park, Yeonmi Park, something like that. And she escaped North Korea when she was 13. And she describes, her videos are really interesting, very not traumatic. I mean, what she went through is definitely traumatic, but she presents the information in a way where we can digest it without being traumatized ourselves. Now, I've also read other things like a book called Escape from Camp 14, and I would highly recommend that. That is traumatizing. So be careful if you are easily traumatized um, by abuse, or even hearing about it, or watching it. Of course, you don't watch it in the book, but you can picture it in your mind as he describes it, and it leaves an indelible mark on you. This guy who escaped from North Korea, he was born in a prison camp. And those who are born in prison camps are never, ever to be released. They are simply free labor. And not just free labor, they are slave labor. They are treated so badly. But here's the thing, why I even bring this up is because, well, in his case, he didn't even know about their leader, Kim Jong Il. Or no, I'm sorry, is it Kim Jong Un, who's the son now of Kim Jong Il. So anyway, the woman though, Yeonmi Park, she talks about she wasn't in a prison camp. She was simply one of the poor, and she talks about starvation and abuse and such. But she talks about how they were brainwashed, and they're continually brainwashed. They're actual speakers um, in the public areas in North Korea that almost continually spout propaganda at them about their leader, about how wonderful he is, how great he is, how amazing their country is. Actually, they even have propaganda saying that they are living in a socialist paradise. Socialist paradise, you guys. And she said they thought they were, because another of the propaganda would tell them that the rest of the world is even worse off than they are. And here they are starving day to day, trying to find food every day. She said growing up, she didn't know what it's like to actually have a full stomach. Like she never experienced that while she was living in North Korea. And then imagine someone telling you and you believing that this is actually better than what the rest of the world is suffering, right? But little by little, they're getting these black market, what do you call it? When people sneak in videos of the Western world, videos of what's actually going on in the rest of the world, like even just movies. They're not allowed to watch Western movies because because it would portray to them there's actual technology, people are eating, there's freedom, so they're not allowed to watch any of this. But this is slowly being sneaked into North Korea, and she says that people are starting to wake up a little at a time. But here's the deal. She said how even she was duped, being starved, being abused, but they don't blame the person who's in charge. They blame instead themselves. They learn to accept the abuse. They think that it's their fault, but also they blame others who are going through the abuse with them. But they don't blame the leader, the supreme narcissist. They don't blame him. In fact, they idolize him. They think of him like a god. So, not even a movie star, but a god. And in fact, they teach the North Korean population that their leader is a god, that he can hear everything you say. He even knows your thoughts, right? They tell you that when you die, you'll go to this heaven where his grandfather and his father, and now he will also be there, right? And it's so creepy how they've transposed the Bible even to make it look like their leader is a god. So everything that you learn in a Bible, that's what they're teaching about their leader to the main population. And the main population, you should see when he walks into, I don't even want to say conference, whatever it is, when he walks into a crowd of people, the women will scream and cry like they used to, or they do now, I guess, even for rock stars, right? They will scream and cry as it, like, videos you've seen of the Beatles, where women just go nuts. And that's how they see their leader. In fact, they even call him supreme leader. And the crazy thing is, even Yeonmi Park will refer to him as her dear leader, or I can't remember. She uses some affectionate term for this crazy fascist, and it's like it's ingrained in her, and she doesn't even break loose from that. That, my friends, is Stockholm syndrome. So she is still somewhat detaching from that, even though she sees it now. She knows it. But part of her has already made that connection with him, that deep, and it's fake, of course, that fake connection. And it doesn't even have to be in person anymore. All it has to be is touted to you and propagandized to you to the point where you actually, your body's chemistry changes when you hear their name, when you see their picture, when you hear their voice. Your body actually reacts as if it's familiar with them. Your brain chemistry reacts as if you're familiar with them, as if they are what you already have been taught they are. Like you're being taught that he's a god, that he will take care of you, that he cares about you. And this is what they do. Well, this is what I'm seeing that happens with narcissists too. This is why we have criminal narcissists. And by the way, a friend of mine said that she highly recommended this book called Criminal Minds, and I need to read that. But essentially, criminal minds have a different makeup. Their morality is so narcissistic. They are out for themselves. They have no conscience. They're focused on how do they win. So when these criminal minds are able to get on the internet, create a social media, start to connect with people, start to manipulate grand masses of people, they that's why I'm calling this right now, this time in our history, a narcissist's dream. This is narc world that we are living in, you guys. So be very careful of people who are doing this. Be very careful when you start to feel like you have an attachment to someone that you don't even know. You've never actually met them. Okay, people want to say, but there was just something there. I just felt an immediate connection. You know what? That is part of Stockholm syndrome. I'm going to go back to that because it's that intimate connection that you think that is real. So what happened in let me go back here. What happened in Sweden? Let me go down here. Um, oh no, this is even a different one. Let me. They were talking about other examples. Hold on, you guys. Hold on. I'm sorry. I'm trying to see what this says here. This is something else that I hadn't seen yet. Um, oh, yeah, they talk about domestic violence. Yeah, that also happens because you live with the person, and that's why a lot of people are like, why doesn't the person leave? And I've seen cases, by the way, of men in domestic violence where they are burned, they are slashed, they are beaten, just mentally they cannot let go. And so this is not just women being abused, it's also men. And they don't leave because they have this connection to the person. Here's another, they build this connection. I was reading somewhere else. I'm not seeing it here. That's why I was trying to find it for you guys and be able to read it to you. But um, where even though they had a gun pointed at their head, even though they were told, I'm going to shoot this person if you don't comply with my demands, they're talking to the police, of course, right? And the hostage is there with a gun to their head. Um, and they're scared like crazy. But then later on, when the hostage, or I'm sorry, when the captors are just one on one with the hostages, they just talk. They sit down and they have a captive audience, by the way, right? The hostages are not going anywhere. They're just scared to death, hoping that they'll survive another day. And the captive will sit there with them and maybe even like tell them a sob story about how they got where they are and how the government had wronged them and how they're the victim. And I don't really want to hurt you. Here, I'll even bring you some water. And it, maybe in some cases they do that, right? Maybe in some cases these people are not completely heartless, but then the hostages come out and they just trust the twisted, the now twisted morality of the captor, right? The captor can even make up stories, as we know about narcissists. They can make up stories about how someone abused them, wronged them, treated them badly, and as we know, narcissists tend to do that. They're never the ones who perpetrate the abuse. They're always the ones who are the victims, right? So all their exes always are the ones that hurt them. All the people in their past, their relatives, everybody, they were the victim of everything. And so the supply, when you hear that, you're like, wow, you feel so bad for this person. But in reality, once you meet the parents, you're like, wait a minute, they don't seem very abusive. When you meet their friends or even their ex, you're like, well, the ex doesn't even seem crazy. So what? It doesn't make sense to you. It's because the narcissist made it up. In their view, remember we mentioned this earlier, the double standard. In their view, whatever happens to them is the end of the world. But whatever they do to other people, it's nothing. So they can, like one of the viewers was saying earlier on that, I think it was Frost and Best said earlier on that when they didn't cheat and they just simply liked a picture on Facebook of the opposite sex, they would get yelled at and all heck would break loose. But their ex would cheat on them physically, like cheat on them, and nothing, right? No remorse, no, it's not, it doesn't matter. So, yeah, that is the world of a narcissist. And yet, those who listen to them, like the New Supply or in the Stockholm Syndrome case, the hostages, you start to believe them. You start to think, well, why would they lie to me? And if you start taking or giving credence to what the narcissist says, then you are going to get pulled into their world. You're going to get pulled into their psychopathic, their very delusional world where they're the victim. And now you have this connection with them. Now you have almost a protective instinct towards them. So when someone comes against them, you will defend them. That's why the new supply doesn't leave. Because, and especially when you, as the ex, come after the narcissist, right? Now you are seen as the aggressor. Now you're seen as the abuser that the narcissist already lied about and said that you were. So now to them, that makes it look like you are, that the narcissist was telling the truth. So even though they're getting abused themselves by the narcissist, but they'll twist it just like the narcissist does to say, well, they do this instinctively or because of what happened to them in the past. You guys, it is a crazy, horrible hole that you fall into when you start to try to make sense of what the narcissist is doing. I want to read this one. Um, wow. Oh my gosh. Okay, there's another story here. Mary McElroy, I did not hear about her, was abducted from her home in 1933 at age 25 by four men who held a gun to her, demanded her compliance, took her to an abandoned farmhouse, and chained her to a wall. She defended her kidnappers when she was released, explaining that they were only businessmen. That's what they told her. We're just businessmen. She then continued to visit her captors while they were in jail. She eventually committed suicide and left the following note: my four kidnappers are probably the only people on earth who don't consider me an utter fool. You have your death penalty now, so please give them a chance. Holy cow, you guys, I'd never heard of that. That's insane. Yep, to the point where the narcissists will convince you that they're the only ones who care about you. Like they totally played her because she was on the outside world who could help them. And like I said before, John was saying how his ex contacted him, was asking a bunch of questions. And let me see, I guess I should probably follow up on that. But my thinking is that the narcissist does ask a lot of questions in order to make you feel like they care about you, make you feel like they're interested in you, make you feel like they want to hear about you, right? They make this connection as if, and I can see them having done this to this woman, Mary McElroy, making her feel heard, making her feel like they think that she's not a fool. That's so, so sad. Here's another story. Colleen Stan. In 1977, Colleen Stan was hitchhiking to visit a friend in Southern California when she was kidnapped by Cameron Hooker and his wife, Janice, and forced to live in a wooden restraining box underneath their bed. Hold on, you guys, I gotta take a drink. Oh, man, I hope you have your coffee or tea with you too. Oh, listen to this. Okay. So she was forced to live in a wooden restraining box under their bed for 7 years. 7 years. Holy mackerel. She was repeatedly um, sexually abused and tortured by Cameron and forced to live life as a sort of domestic slash sex slave. Even though she was allowed to socialize with Janice and even visit her mother, she still continued to live in the box and did not attempt to escape. She was eventually freed by Janice, who asked Colleen to not disclose her abuse, as Janice was attempting to reform Cameron. Colleen remained silent until Janice finally decided to turn Cameron over to the police. You guys, is that absolutely crazy? That that's what happens to people when they form a connection, and unless we interview these people, right, the victims, we will never understand what is the connection that they have. But we can kind of understand or see from afar what it might be, because we've had that kind of connection with the narcissist, where we defended the narcissist for doing bad things, right? We stood up for the narcissist. We even saw the narcissist treating other people badly and then believing that the other person deserved it, right? It could never actually be the narcissist's fault. And these stories I was just reading to you are the extreme where it gets to the criminal stage. Hopefully most of you have not experienced the criminal stage of narcissism, but you still will have the effect of defending them doing maybe not illegal things, but definitely abusive things to other people. Um, that is Stockholm syndrome, you guys. That is that connection that you think you have with the other person, when in reality, the narcissist has no connection. They would be the first one to throw you under the bus. Like if you step out of line, and in fact, they do it continually, right? They probably have already. They have already blamed you for their misery. They've already complained to others about you being the cause of whatever bad things have happened, right? Of any of their failures, even if they can't, like if they don't show up on time, it's not them, it's you. You're the one who caused them not to show up on time. If they miss a payment on a mortgage, it's you. You are the reason why they missed the payment, not them. If they crashed the car, it wasn't because they were fidgeting with their phone while they were driving. It was because you were sitting in the car next to them, and somehow you didn't take the phone from them and looked up the things that they wanted you to look up, even though they didn't tell you to, right? It's somehow your fault that you didn't do something extra to prevent them from their disaster. So you already see this happening in your relationship with the narcissist, and yet there were times when you defended them, right? When they were doing this to you, and you still would defend them. This is exactly what the new supply is going through. This is what continues to happen, sadly, on a grander scale, where people are defending outright abusive, violent criminals, because now these criminals are able to go on to social media, create their own pages. Holy cow. I even followed a couple of them. I didn't follow them. I watched their videos. Okay, I didn't subscribe, but I watched some of these videos from all out, I mean, flat out, they're criminals. They admit it. They've been to jail. And I'm not saying like if you've been to jail, you're just this horrible person and never can be redeemed. But I'm talking about these people who get on and they speak about how they were victimized. And of course, their followers then support them. Their followers will send them money. Their followers will believe every story they tell. Their followers will believe every word they say, which is crazy to me. Yeah, their followers just have made this connection with them to the point where they cannot see that the person they're listening to is actually manipulating them. They don't see that. They just believe. They want to believe. They don't want to believe that they've been manipulated or fooled, right? Nobody wants to believe that. So these criminals are able to keep their viewers. They're able to manipulate their viewers into feeling and making this bizarre, non-existent connection. And I want to say it's non-existent, but it really is there, right? They actually mentally feel like there is a connection. And the viewers are then just as abused as anybody else who has been in the life of the narcissist. So you guys, I've been watching, people just want to believe so badly. And that's why social media is such a brain F word, you know? Oh my gosh, because People want to believe so badly in whatever's stories they hear, and not just stories, but where their heart goes out to something, right? They want to feel sympathy. They want to feel like they have a heart. So once they start trusting someone who's lying to them, they can't believe that they gave their heart or their sympathy to someone undeserving. So they'll continue to build this relationship or this connection with someone who's fake. And you see it with catfishing, you guys. It's so, so sad. If you guys have seen or heard any of those stories where people go on to lonely heart sites or dating sites or whatever they're called, hookup sites even, and they'll convince people they've never met that they're in love with them. And the person who hears, I love you, I saw your profile picture and just fell in love with your eyes and your smile and it, just something about your face, they would say all of this stuff, you guys, and it's just words to them. But to the listener, to the viewer, to their victim, that victim starts to build a connection. Something chemically changes in that victim, right? That makes the victim feel at ease, makes the victim feel connected, makes the victim feel, what's the word? Sort of like they call it the hug hormone, but it's essentially makes you feel loved by the perpetrator, by the narcissist, by the criminal who's taking advantage. And I've seen stories of people who have lost up to $1 million. Like this one woman, she mortgaged, took out a second mortgage. I don't remember. She just took out loan after loan after loan until she was $1 million in the hole for some guy in Africa who said that he's a United States serviceman who is stuck over there for whatever reason and can't get his papers or, makes no sense. And you even read the emails or texts that were shared between them. And you're like, this guy doesn't even speak English. You can tell that his grammar is so bad that it's not just a failure of our school system. It's actually this person is a foreigner. He is not from the United States. And he's pretending to be American. And it's really sad. But people are taken, they make that connection because they actually, in their minds, have built an intimacy connection, an intimate connection with their perpetrator. Wow. Well, you guys, I wanted to share all of that with you mainly because I want you to be aware if you're suddenly feeling connected to someone, but there is no history behind you, right? It didn't take you guys months to build this connection. And in fact, a lot of the connection was built on words. Be very careful, all right? Be very careful there because what's the rush? First of all, let me explain that. What's the rush? Why rush into something with somebody and expose yourself to possible abuse when you can take some time, right? And if the person really does care about you, they won't rush you. They won't demand that you trust them right away. They won't demand that you hand over your credit cards or your car. They won't demand to have a key to your house if you trust them, right? If they really are worthy of trust, they will take the time to build that trust with you. But sadly, right now, what we're seeing on the internet, what we're seeing in social media are people who are making instant connections, right? And they look like they're making these instant connections. And you're like, well, why can't I do that? Am I missing out on something? Well, maybe I need to trust more. What they don't show you is 5 weeks down the road, heck, even 5 days down the road, that they just robbed the other person, right? They only post the positive pictures, and then the person who is robbed or taken advantage of, they're so ashamed that they don't post anymore. They certainly don't expose it because then, it's very embarrassing. So all you see is the one-sided, oh, look at how wonderful everything looked and how quickly they bonded. And that's exactly what we see with the new supply. We see the new supply acting as if this is the best thing that's ever happened to me. And what we don't see is 5 months down the road when the new supply has been kicked to the curb and another supply is in their place. And it might not be 5 months. Who knows? Yep. Well, you guys, let me catch up on some of the comments here. Amanda, good to see you. And JB, good to see you too. I'm sorry, I'm kind of skipping back in here a little bit. Oh my gosh, yeah. Hold on, let me go back a bit here. Wow, Obi, that's crazy. Okay, I don't know how far back I need to go. Okay, here we go. Obi-Wan says, she accused me of cheating with my neighbor, felt she was mirroring me, so I confessed to something I didn't do just to make her leave me. Wow. Frost is best in the world, in world, says, I don't know why I couldn't leave after everything was kind of my point. LOL. She even told everyone in school I was violent for attention, and so no other girls would look my way, so she was the only option. Wow. In her mind. JB says, after my divorce, my ex managed to make sure he would manipulate my kids and take them too. Oh, jeez. Yeah, they do. They get their, and sadly, when it happens with kids, they don't know who to believe, so they're gonna believe the one who talks to them the most, I guess, right? And hopefully, at some point, the kids wake up to that. Hopefully, at some point, the kids realize what they're seeing and what they're hearing are not matching up. Yeah, yeah. Hubby says Frost is best in world. Says welcome to Crazytown, my friend. Yeah, Amanda, good to see you. Says good morning. Do you think some of it is because abused people don't often realize they are being abused? I didn't know I was being abused until people showed me articles on narcissistic abuse. Absolutely. Whoops, hold on, you guys. Absolutely. That is what happens. I'm sorry, my screen is not behaving here. It's looking very dark. I'm going to see if I can fix that. Maybe I just need to close this to help that a little bit. There you guys go. Oh, that's a little bit nicer. Yeah, so yeah, a lot of times people don't realize they're being abused because they're giving and giving and being sympathetic, and they're only, and this is why narcissists love people who are empathetic, right? We want to care about people. We're caretakers. We give to people, um, and we put ourselves last. We're very self-sacrificing, and we don't see when someone's taking advantage of that. Absolutely. Frost is best says, I've lived in Crazytown a long time. LOL. I'm 24 now. I got with her when I was 15, learning about evil early on, at least. Yeah. Yes. Amanda says, my next relationship wasn't with a narc, but was emotionally and even physically abusive, and it took me a couple of years to even call it abuse. Is that rare? I feel weird about not being able to see it. No, that is, you know what? I don't think that's rare. I think a lot of times people don't want to admit that they're being abused, even to themselves, right? They just don't see it as abuse because they know they can leave at any moment. So they think, well, because I can end this at any moment, then that must not be abuse. It's me saying I'm willing to accept this behavior because I have this ulterior motive. And the motive is to cure the other person, right? To help the narcissist change. And so if that's your motive, then you feel like I'm not being abused because I'm allowing this to happen in order for me to stick around to help this other person. So the abused person feels like they're still in control, when in reality, if that abused person actually entertained leaving, actually pictured themselves leaving, they would realize at that point how out of control they really are. They would realize at that point that emotionally. They're not able to leave. Yeah. Rise Shines, good to see you, says, or what they are. Wait, hold on. Did I miss something? Says, or what they are pretending to care about. Obi-Wan says, you can learn a lot about your life when you learn their lingo. Yeah. That's when my abuse started when I was 24 and liberated myself from this trauma 3 years ago. Now I'm 42 and only wish I know now what I did then. Yeah. Rai Shine says, ex-narc said he wasn't a cheater, accused me of cheating. He cheated. I didn't. Yes. It was Crazytown. Exactly. Well, that's the projection, right? Narcissists will tell, and criminals too. Holy cow, you guys will accuse you of doing the very thing they're doing to you. Yeah. Hold on, you guys. I'm going to have a drink of coffee here. All right. Oh, yeah. Frost is best says being discarded was the best thing to happen to me, I guess. Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah. So on Facebook, she's still saying I was the one who cheated. Wow. Yeah, because they have to get sympathy from their viewers, right? From people who don't even really know them. How do they get their story out there? How do they get sympathy? How do they then start up a GoFundMe page for, helping them to get over whatever abuse they received, right? Oh my gosh, you guys. What we're living right now is a narc wonderland. Maybe someone should start that channel. Although I would not want to visit narc wonderland. Maybe yeah, it's, we're, it's crowding into our world, that narc wonderland, where narcissists are thriving. And and I don't mean like thriving as in it's going to be long lasting, but they seem to be doing really well right now, especially like financially, right? If they can set up these GoFundMe pages and get people to believe that as they were victimizing other people, somehow they're the victim because they were stopped, right? There were consequences to what they did. They were caught, right? And then they're now required to deal with the consequences of their own actions, their own choices. But these consequences have now made them look like the victim. Oh my gosh, you guys. I'm not even going to get into some things, but I tell you what, when people are contributing to people like that because they just feel so sorry for them, that's the narcissist wonderland. They love that. It's their fantasy land where they can manipulate people just by typing. They don't even have to have a convincing tone. They can just type something and the story and then take a picture, right? Take a moment, picture in a moment in time where they don't even have to manipulate you for a long period of time. Like, when you're face to face with a narcissist, you watch them. You watch their body language, you watch their facial expressions, you watch where their eyes are going, you watch their tone of voice. But now with social media, they don't even have to do that at all. All they have to do is take one picture where it looks like they're sad, and then they write this story, and then you just keep looking back at that one picture where they look so sad and dejected and rejected, I guess. And you think, oh my goodness, I feel so bad. And then you send them money. What the heck? In the meantime, all they did was they took 1 second to look sad, and they don't even have to look sad for half an hour anymore to convince you while they're talking to you, because they're not. All they have to do is type out a little story. It is creepy, you guys. Or maybe a 5-minute interview, right? They might do a quick thing. Or some of them will actually get online and talk for half an hour or something. I haven't actually paid attention to those. Well, I have with the criminals. It's crazy where you listen to them and you're like, what the heck? But some people are falling for it. Yeah. Well, you guys, our hour is up, but I want to give you guys a few minutes to wrap up some of your conversations. Yeah, Obi says stuff just doesn't add up with these people. It absolutely does not. Yeah. Yep. Frost is best says, I'm in the same boat, retraining my mind. Hope it goes smoothly for you. Yeah. It's easy because after the discard, the nuclear fallout blew me to Texas and her to Rhode Island, so never have to see her again. That is a huge blessing if you can live in a different state from the narcissist. Yeah. Well, you guys, oh, let me go down a bit here. Yeah, no contact, you guys. Just make sure you go no contact. This is where, Stockholm syndrome, if they no longer had contact with the victim, if the victim no longer allowed them to have contact with them, they could possibly have hope of waking up. But unlike this woman I had just read about, she continued to visit her perpetrators and stayed in touch with them. And because of that, she ended up, well, doing away with herself, right? Because they don't care. By the way, here's the deal. They do not care about anybody. And but they want you to think they care about you, and it will drive you mad because it doesn't add up. What they say and what they do, they don't add up. Well, you guys, that is the happy crappy hour for today. I hope that understanding a bit about Stockholm syndrome, about making that intimate connection, about making that deeper connection, even if it's virtual, you guys, it's there. So you got to be careful not to follow along with that as if it were a spiritual thing. Some people actually believe they have a spiritual connection when in reality, what it is, um, it's really just a chemical connection that they built with the perpetrator, with the narcissist, with the criminal who's trying to swindle them out of everything. That is what you have to be careful of. Hey, Crystal Jean, good to see you. Yeah, I'm just wrapping up here, Crystal Jean, but I'll give you a couple more minutes. It says, hi, everyone. Hope everyone is staying strong. Yeah, we're just about at the end of our show here, Crystal, but if you, I will give you a few minutes. She says, I had no idea my relationship was abusive either. I knew something wasn't right, but I pushed that down constantly to survive, I guess. Ah, Crystal says, hi, Escape. Yes, good to see you. But you guys, today's lesson was on Stockholm Syndrome, and I hope that you understand now that this connection that you make with people, be vigilant about it being real. Actually, take the time to build memories with somebody, not just memes with them, right? Not just social media posts with them. That is part of life nowadays, but the real connection really should still be spending time with people. So I'm actually reducing my social media by a lot. I'm actually getting off of other, my private stuff, getting off of social media and staying away because I feel that if I'm to have a relationship with someone, I'm going to call them. I'm going to actually pick up the phone and we're going to talk or at least meet up, right? We're going to actually go the extra distance and build a relationship. Other than that, I don't need 500 best friends, you know, but if people are meant to be in my life, I'm going to build a relationship with them. So I hope you guys are doing the same. You're going to actually reach out to people that you're going to see regularly, even if it's just once a month. You do build a relationship. But the best thing is once a week. Go out and have coffee, go play tennis, go for a jog with them. Do something once a week. You build a relationship that way. Well, you guys, I hope that this lesson today has helped you to get your mind straight and also helps to forewarn other things that might be off in your life right now. Make sure that you are paying attention to people who are trying to manipulate, of course, right? Don't fall for their traps. And I will see you next week. Blessings to all of you guys. I hope that you have a great week. I hope that I will hear a lot of good things from you guys next week. Stay strong, stay healthy minded, stay informed. Blessings to you guys.